Dude, I'm really embracing the dad style.
Yeah, very nice.
Do I look like a dad? All
Yes.
right, we're live. We're live. Enough
All
chit
right.
chat. We're live now. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to a Sunday Satoshi live. Here we are getting started with regular guest Bitcoin Benjamin Leneve. Appreciate you joining me, fam.
Happy to be here.
And
It's been too long. Happy to be back to connect and broadcast the good news of the future of money.
dude, it has been too long. It's been, I think, a full 2 months. I think it's been a full 2 months since we did episode 10. I believe this is technically episode 11. Welcome back.
Nice. Good to be here.
What are you sipping on?
Got me a little drip coffee from the Mountain Fountain
Let's go.
with
Let's
some
go.
uh,
Big.
with some honey and cream in it, of course.
Let's go. What block number is it, dude? Block height 798,983. Feels like yesterday when we hit 777,777. And here we are, nearly at block height 800,000. I mean, we're going to be there just like very soon. Time flies when you're, when you're hashing sats and whatnot. Ben's been doing his thing and actually working on some Bitcoin mining projects. Dude, let me ask you this. Now that you've actually put your hands on some ASICs, you've actually, done some work, right? What are your first thoughts, like having jumped into a little bit of Bitcoin mining and kind of jumping a little bit head first, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say. I think doing is the best way to learn, and in some aspects, mining is a lot more complex than I would have thought, and then in other aspects, it's like a lot simpler. Like I've always imagined them ASICs to be pretty obviously application specific. So I imagine them to be designed pretty well for like a plug and play
Mm-hmm.
operation, but
Mm-hmm.
but you gotta have the pool set up. If you have multiple miners, that networking and power can
Mm-hmm.
become, and heat and ventilation, all that stuff can become tasks, measurable tasks, large
Yeah.
tasks to be dealt with very quickly.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. Um, like you said, like in some ways it is very simple, right? Like as long as the machines are happy, then generally they're just hashing. But keeping
Mhm.
those machines happy is a lot of work in and of itself, making sure it has the right environment, making sure, all the ingredients are there for that machine to stay happy 24/7
Right.
is a lot of work for the operator, right? So, um, is that kind of what you mean by like it's kind of simple, but it's also kind of complicated, or?
Yeah, I guess so, because in and of itself, the actual hashing and all that function is entirely passive, and we don't have to do anything. But it's like getting it set up, getting the conditions right, getting
Mm-hmm.
the network and the pool and everything synced and directed properly is a task, and requires periodic maintenance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And and you say the pool, like when you say getting the right pool, like that seems like it would be super easy because you just basically enter the pool information and it goes there. Um, and then I think the only real issue that we had with the pool side of things is when the What's miner didn't like the PSU and then for whatever reason it didn't like the power supply unit, and therefore for whatever reason it just didn't want to do a pool change. So it's just funny little technical things that you have to work around, and it can be very tedious trying to, through the process of elimination, find what the real issue is.
Right.
It's a lot of fun.
And all of the manufacturers are, in China. So whenever you're dealing with support or anything like that, or it's, you're almost always talking to somebody who's on the opposite side of the world and doesn't speak English as their
Not
first
all of them,
language.
though. I mean, Intel just like announced that they're going to stop producing their very short-lived, ASIC manufacturing for the purposes of proof of work mining. So I don't think Intel is making any more Bitcoin mining machines. But
I didn't know Intel was ever in the business.
Yeah, briefly they jumped in and then jumped out. But I think I read that WhatsMiner's actually producing ASICs in the United States. Also, Jack Dorsey's company is producing ASICs in the United States as well. So it'll be interesting to watch, where manufacturing and production migrates to. Will we see the great migration of manufacturing? We saw the great migration of hash when China banned mining in mainland China, but are we going to see the manufacturers start to shift a little more as well? And machines are made in other places too, like Malaysia, and so they are not only centralized in China, but like they are mostly Chinese companies with MicroBT and Bitmain.
Yeah, right.
It's also interesting to look into like the backstory of how MicroBT got started. So that's they produced the WhatsMiner, and they split off from Bitmain back in the day. There was like a civil war that happened over at Bitmain where they were actually fighting for control of the company, and that's how MicroBT got started. Is it effectively split off from Bitmain?
Interesting. I did not know that. That's some good esoteric Bitcoin mining corporate history.
It's worth a read. Yeah, it's pretty cool to go down the rabbit hole and like look at some of that stuff. Very competitive, and it'd be interesting to think of like, because I wasn't there back in those days, right? This is my first bear market, and but think about like the block size wars, right? That was happening, like 2016, 2017. These shifts in what makes Bitcoin is, like these types of shifts is all a part of the story. And again, such early days. That's what I find so fascinating, is how, to me, I think it's very obvious that these are the early days. I like to make the comparison that Bitcoin mining is like gold mining, right? That's a pretty simple comparison. But check
I was
this
thinking
out.
about getting like a Denver Nuggets flag or something with like a pickaxe to hang up back here, as like a little bit of a connection between the mining and the location and all this good stuff.
Yeah, very much so. So like, 2023 is like before 1849 when it comes to gold mining. And check this out. I like to think of this, like, let's just do a thought experiment, folks, before we get into some news and stuff. By the way, Ben, I gotta say it again, dude. I appreciate you coming back through for a Sunday Satoshi, dude. It feels good. Feels good to be back.
Of course, I was missing it, and I'm glad that we're back on the train. Hopefully, we can, get back to the regular schedule and just dial it in, tighten it up, all that good stuff.
Oh, sure, feels good. So, so, dude, check this out. When when the gold miners sold everything back in the day, right? They sold everything and they wanted to go get rich finding gold in the West, right? So they sold everything, they bought the equipment that they needed, and they went out to prospect gold. Now, of course, most people basically went broke they were when they were gold mining back in 1849 or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But check this out. When those miners went to find gold, you know what? Everybody knew that gold was gold.
Right.
Everybody, let me say that again for the folks in the back. Everybody knew that gold was gold when the gold rush happened.
Right. Gold had been gold already for thousands of years.
Bingo. Gold had already been had the proven history of being gold for thousands of years. Now, here we are at the precipice of the emergence of superior money technology, which is Bitcoin. And I would argue that nobody even knows what Bitcoin is.
Right. Bitcoin is gold and then some, and most people don't even have the beginning of that thought.
And so what I'm saying is, imagine if you could go get your pickaxe and go prospect gold before anybody even knew that gold was valuable. Imagine going out to California with your gold sifting equipment, which I would compare to an S19 today, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a pickaxe and gold sifting equipment, and you're going out to California, and people don't even really understand what that yellow stuff is floating down the river and in the ground.
Right. Everybody else is just watching it and scratching their head looking at this guy.
Yeah, that's how I look at it, because the average person, 99 out of 100 people, literally has close to zero understanding of what Bitcoin is as a technology.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me they don't even know what the gold is, and it's 2023. So that means we're way earlier, like on the adoption curve, right?
Right.
So that, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting, because back in the day, people knew what gold was. Like people don't know what Bitcoin is.
Right. Hopefully that'll hopefully that'll change in time for the middle class to hop on board.
You think they will? You think the middle class? Do you think Bitcoin's going to save the middle class?
I think it could, but that would require awareness of the middle class before awareness of the controlling an elite class, I think.
Do you think the middle class would hold on to Bitcoin long enough to stay prosperous? Because, I mean, again, like, how many millionaires are there, right? Like, let's talk about the middle class, and let's talk about how many millionaires there are, right?
Sure. I have no idea.
There's a lot more millionaires than there are 21 million. There's a lot more millionaires than there will ever be Bitcoin.
Right, for sure.
Have you ever done this? Have you taken the amount of Bitcoin ever, right? So the hard supply limit of Bitcoin, 21 million, and divided that by the world population?
No, let's do it.
Do it, and then I'm going to look this up real quick while you're doing that.
Right on. 21 million divided by 8 billion.
You could just ask Siri if that's too many zeros or whatever. It's not that many zeros, though, to be fair.
If I turn the phone sideways, it'll give me some more zeros. And I don't talk to Siri.
I know the answer though, but so I'll know if you get it right.
Looks like we have 0.002625 bitcoins per humans on the planet, roughly.
So how many sats is that, bro?
That's like 260,000 sats or something like that.
Yep. How much would that cost you if you were to go purchase that right now? How much would 200 or 200? Let's round up, right? 300,000 sats. How much would that cost you?
Somewhere around $100 right now, I believe. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, like $90, I think.
Nice. So yeah, get your piece of Get your piece of the pie while it's affordable, people.
Think about that. So one human being's share of Bitcoin, you can buy someone's share for $90. And then they don't have their share, right? Like then you have then it gets absorbed. And we're going to talk in a minute here, folks. We're going to talk about BlackRock stepping into the space. And guess
Right.
what? I'm just here to tell you right here, right now, they're coming for your share.
Right.
They are coming for your share. They're coming for the middle class share. They're coming for the upper middle class share. They're coming for the lower middle class share. They're coming for everyone's share, folks.
Right. Yeah, for all we know, the next could be the next month, could be the next 8 months, could be the next 16, 24 months, but I'd say it's fair to say that we could be in the critical opportunity zone before a lot of this awareness starts to reach critical mass, and things are taking off to a new level.
Yeah, I mean, the banks have been telling you that they're interested in Bitcoin for a long time if you take the time to read their material.
Mm-hmm.
And of course most people aren't going to read their research papers, but it is out there though. Whether you're talking Fidelity, BlackRock, BNY Mellon, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, MicroStrategy already possesses 1%. I mean, they're already at the 1% mark of the entire supply of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy holds on to 1%.
Wow. So what's that, like 200,000 Bitcoin or something?
210 or thereabouts.
Nice.
Yeah. So, it's just it's getting heated, folks. And before we get to BlackRock, let's talk about some people kind of selling fool's gold out in the marketplace, because again, if you don't hold your keys, you don't hold your coins. If you're trusting an exchange, or you're trusting somebody like Alex Mashinsky of the Celsius network, if you're trusting someone else with your Bitcoin, then it's not your Bitcoin. And so if you have a promissory note, then you have counterparty risk. And this is, Bitcoin is a bearer asset, which means that you can take full responsibility for your asset and you can possess it. And with that comes risks, obviously, because if you lose it, then there's no one you can call. No one's going to bail you out.
Right. It's the Great Depression, and the government said that they want all your gold. And the government shows up and they say, give us all your gold and we'll give you a note that says that, you can still spend this in place of the value of your gold. And, if you are somebody who leaves your Bitcoin on an exchange, then you're just like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Take my gold and I'll take your piece of paper. And I'm sure that'll work out just fine.
Yeah, and it didn't work out fine for the people that got hurt by Celsius. Finally, law enforcement comes in and arrests Alex Mashinsky for him to go ahead and stand trial for multiple counts of fraud. He was arrested and charged with fraud. A federal prosecutor said on Thursday of last week. So the feds are suing Celsius. Celsius has agreed to not trade anymore, and they also got hit with pretty massive fines. But, whether it's FTX, whether you're talking, SBF, you're talking FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, or you're talking Alex Mashinsky and Celsius, this goes to show that we still have a lot of lessons to learn in this space, where people are getting really hurt badly by the malfeasance and the alleged fraud that's happening in this space, where I mean, let's just read into this a little bit, but as a matter of fact, I was considering in my very early days, I was considering putting a lot of my savings onto Celsius. So I dodged that bullet myself, and I took that personally.
And what?
And I took that personally.
Right.
But freaking Mashinsky's been like running around at conferences and stuff, like, in the light of day, and say what?
Running around trying to get everybody's money.
I mean, sorry, had a little feedback there. I just, it blows me away. It blows me away that, we are where we are in the market, and when it comes to regulation and stuff, I think no amount of regulation is going to. Let me think of how to put this correctly. Like, no amount of regulation can protect you from the fact that you need to take responsibility for your Bitcoin.
Right.
And I feel like, no matter how big, because again, like, if you're talking about regulated, if it's not a crooked organization like Celsius, and if you're talking about a regulated firm holding on to your Bitcoin, it still isn't safe, arguably, right? It still isn't safe unless you know that it is safe for a fact.
Right.
And they can't print more Bitcoin to bail you out. So that's the thing. They can print more dollars and you can get bailed out by dollars, but they can't print more Bitcoin.
Right. There's no Visa. There's no bank of Bitcoin that's going to say, "Oh, we're sorry you got caught up in this. Let us put those numbers right back."
No, they can't. They can't return it because you're talking final settlement and all the rest of it. So, but yeah, they finally arrested Mashinsky, and we'll have to.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bummer that these kinds of situations like this and SBF or FTX situations happen. It makes the whole industry look bad. It makes people who aren't reading into the headlines very much, makes them all like skittish, and puts a bad taste in their mouth because everybody amalgamizes crypto and Bitcoin and altcoins and shitcoins all into one big ball in their heads in a lot of ways.
That's a good point.
I think it encourages regulators to come in and do something drastic, which I kind of view as like a neutral but mostly probably negative thing, because I don't think regulation would serve to protect the consumer as much as it would serve to either allow them to levy taxes or benefit a few select exchange type businesses at the expense of competition in the market.
Yeah. So I mean, Bitcoin is already regulated as property, and so it's not a security. And
that's U.S. president.
Yeah, that's U.S. president. So Bitcoin has been defined as property, and that is what it is. It's not a security, so it's not regulated by the Security Exchange Commission. It's not regulated by the CFTC. It is property. So but there's a lot of shady business that has gone down, and yes, people do not know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. So crypto generally is a lot of unregulated securities, and the hammer's coming down from the SEC and Gary Gensler, and they're starting to sue big publicly traded companies like Coinbase, and they're going to court. We're going to talk about Ripple in a second. But fraud is fraud, right? So, like, whether it's gold, which is also a type of property, right? Gold is physical property. If somebody defrauds you from your gold and steals your gold, that's still a crime, right? And it just so happens that, Celsius was also operating in a bunch of cryptos, and it was a disgusting amount of it was just disgusting, right? So, I mean, they have over 100,000 Bitcoin. Think of this. They have almost 100,000 Bitcoin. So again,
Celsius does?
Yes, they have
Wow.
100,000 of other people's Bitcoin. That's locked up in a bankruptcy now.
That's a lot of OPB.
It's like half of what MicroStrategy has.
Right. I wonder what the heck's going to happen with all that when when it's said and done with the case.
We will have to find out. This is more topic for discussion in future Sunday Satoshis. So make
Right.
sure you tune in.
We'll have to keep that on the radar so we can address the developing news.
You said it.
One thing I wanted to mention or bring up, and this is kind of jumping back a few topics, when you mentioned like the hash migration, the Great Migration, all that kind of stuff, and some companies that are not in China or even in the U.S. that are producing these technologies, physically manufacturing ASICs or things like that. I've heard some news lately when it comes to like the chip production market globally. Like they, obviously Taiwan is like the global leader in chip manufacturing. Taiwan is currently, like a U.S. ally, and China wants and swears to God and seems to be actually preparing to at some point, retake Taiwan and absorb it into their, communist People's Republic, in quotes. And I've heard that also, like the U.S., I think legislatively, we started some initiatives to like start some chip manufacturing in like New Mexico and Arizona, Nevada, something like that.
So what's your point?
I'm just curious, like what you know about the topic, and also I think it's interesting that the government tries to like force market development in a certain area, and they could look at the incentives that they create in the market, that and I think it would be more useful to look at those incentives and shape incentives to to naturally allow a place where something like chip manufacturing, ASIC production, these high-tech things would naturally occur in the economy rather than trying to subsidize and force initiations on things like this against the natural flow of the market. Oof.
So, I mean, dude, that question blew me away, and it blew my sign away.
Sorry if it was a lot of words.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, bro. I don't know about, like, I don't know about the free market, like, because obviously a lot of what does drive production is subsidies, right, and, like, incentives that are centrally planned, whether it's China or the United States. There's a lot of central planning happening. And so I don't know, bro. I mean, I wish I had a better answer for you. I just don't really know. I mean, I know you're right. I mean, you're right about the chip manufacturing being very concentrated. That's facts, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and
But
I've heard some people, bringing like the time element into it. Like, we're in a time crunch right now
mm-hmm.
between, getting some chip manufacturing going in, Western countries or in the free world somewhere other than Taiwan. Just,
Well,
in
I mean,
case
we
if
do
and
mean
when China takes them over, it could be tomorrow, it could be never, and but we should have diversified, technology and chip production.
mm, yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know how it plays out. I mean, we do manufacture a lot of chips in the United States as well,
Hmm.
right? But there's certainly supply chain issues and and like we'll have to stay tuned to see
Yeah,
how all of this plays out.
yeah. Sorry for chucking the football back to the 5 minute mark of the stream.
No, I mean it's perfectly fine. Let's move on to we covered the fact that Mashinsky got arrested. Let's talk about a different CEO, a very different CEO, a CEO that manages trillions in assets. Let's talk about Larry Fink, and let's talk about BlackRock.
Let's do it. I'm gonna plug in my computer before I lose the stream.
Okay, cool beans. So, let's how much does BlackRock manage? Does anybody even know? According to Statista, as of the second quarter of 2022, which is a year ago, and I'm sure this growth has compounded a lot more. But as of 2Q of 22, they were managing 8.5 trillion US dollars. 8.5 trillion US dollars under management for BlackRock. And apparently a year prior, in June of 21, it was 9.5 trillion. I wonder what it is today. I'm not sure, but that gives you an idea that they're managing more assets than first world countries, GDP. This is an absolutely massive behemoth. And
Right.
BlackRock has filed for spot Bitcoin ETF. Most people have heard that. And Larry Fink has been going on. He's been going on TV, CNBC, and what have you, and he's talking about how crypto is crypto because he can't speak on Bitcoin. Namely, he can't speak on Bitcoin because they have a pending application for the spot ETF. But when he says crypto, I think he's talking about Bitcoin in large part because the banks do know the difference. So whereas earlier we spoke about how most people don't know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. These are two different things. But check this out. BlackRock does know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. Fidelity
Right.
Digital Assets does know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. These banks know what's up, and they're preparing themselves accordingly, but like the freaking Titanic, I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but like a massive ship, they take longer to maneuver. So you could, I'm not advising you to because I'm not a financial advisor, do your own research, but you could just go buy some right now, right? You could just go buy some Bitcoin. Whereas these $1 trillion,
And you should.
these are you a financial advisor, Ben?
No, that is amateur advice. Fully I release all liability,
That's your opinion, bro. That's
and by listening to the stream, you also released all liability based on any future decisions or attempts to hold liable anybody that participates in the show.
dude, that's just like your opinion, bro.
Right.
But so the banks, you can just go buy whatever you want with your, you know, small amount of assets. You can convert those assets into a better asset or a worse asset. You could go buy some dumb shit if you wanted to.
Right.
Whereas these big banks, they can't just deploy their capital overnight. I mean, mind you, Bitcoin's a very illiquid market. It's a very volatile market because it's a real market and it trades 24/7, 365. These banks can't just pile in without massively shifting price, etc. But they are positioning themselves and they're looking to make fees and scrape fees off of ETFs. Whether it's Grayscale or any of these big banks that are applying. A number of massive banks have applied for a spot Bitcoin ETF in the United States. They already have spot Bitcoin ETFs in Europe. The SEC is not approving these things right now, but they probably will, because now we got BlackRock playing the game. We got some other types of players in the game. And so my question to the audience is, are you in the game? Are you playing the same game that the banks are about to start playing? It's like Monopoly, right? Like, if I'm playing Monopoly, are you going to buy the property up before the big money enters the table, or are you going to wait till the big money?
Whoever goes around the board first and spends the money on the board first wins in Monopoly.
So Fink acknowledged, he says, more and more global investors are asking us about crypto. And investment bankers are getting these questions. They know which direction things are headed. They're doing their research on Bitcoin. They're realizing that there is no second best. And so are you going to, I think it's an opportunity to front run the big money. I think it's an opportunity to front run, to place my trade before them.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be alive. The opportunities abound, and you just have to do a little bit of research and educating yourself, and make a good decision. Don't stay poor your whole life.
Yep, that's kind of the challenge. That's the challenge when BlackRock they're not only looking to buy Bitcoin, they're buying everybody's house. They're buying everybody's everything. Shit, like,
it's like they can see what the finite assets are and go for those or something. Almost like you could too.
You just kind of gotta sense which way the wind's blowing, right? I think it's blowing towards Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen because I feel like when I heard it, it was like probably the biggest Bitcoin news piece that I've heard in, I would say, months, is that Larry Fink would start talking about it in a positive way, like this is the direction things are going. To me, that's like monumental shifts in global market forces is what I expect to follow that. And so far we haven't, we've been shockingly stable in price since he said that. But I also know that, and I think you kind of referenced this, that it's, and I've had somebody who studied trading markets and stuff explain to me that it's not volume moving into the market that drives the price up a lot. It's intensity. It's like when there's demand. If you're shifting small amounts at a steady pace into the market, you're not applying vast pressure. But if there's, multiple big investment funds all at the same time trying to demand Bitcoin, trying to shift big positions into Bitcoin or anything, it's that competition, the competitive demand and pressure that drives price up fastest. And same in reverse, of course.
Yeah, I think it's both. Insofar as the small purchases that are made by the plebs, where people are dollar cost averaging small amounts over time, that does suck up the liquidity of the market. So the amount of selling taking place is getting sucked up rather quickly. And then when a large order is placed, and if the liquidity is not there, then price has nowhere to go but one direction to fill that void.
Right. Everything certainly counts.
Certainly. Yeah. And I remember we touched on this in a previous episode where it seemed like there was a government auction where they were selling Bitcoin from Silk Road or whatever it was. And and it seemed like a big number, like they're selling hundreds of Bitcoin onto the market, but in reality it just gets absorbed instantly, in a sense, because the amount of demand. So it is interesting. It's really interesting. Like you said, it's interesting times to be living, where if you look at, let me pull up, just look at if you go to Glassnode and you look at like the small Bitcoin wallets with less than 1 BTC, it's basically just up and to the right, where these wallets are just consistently stacking prices above short-term realized price, where people have held on to coins for a short amount of time. Hopefully this bear market's over, but regardless, people are just stacking relentlessly, and we're 9 months away from the halving. I mean, the halving is right around the corner, and whether or not that's priced in, I mean, if you look at the history of what happens before and after the halving, it's been very positive. The halving event's been very positive. Some people feel like, well, maybe the the bull run and the halving, maybe it's not going to be the same as it has been. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is that the fact of the matter is that the mining reward gets the supply, the inflation schedule gets chopped in half, and then people start to realize that you're dealing with the most scarce asset in the world. So
it's like a squeeze on the mining market, but then at the same time it's like a stimulus to the entire market, to we really are in a time sensitive and finite environment here. There's a sense of urgency if you want to be in the advantageous position.
You said it, brother. Dude, I think that's a good spot right there to wrap. And I appreciate you. You want to say anything else to the good folks that might see this? Where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at Ben_Lanive, I think, and Instagram, something like that. Feel free to look me up. Appreciate everybody that tuned in and watched some. We don't give financial advice.
Share this out. Drop a comment. If you think we're on some bullshit, let us know. Questions, comments.
All the feedback is welcome.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. And stay humble, stack sats. Appreciate you guys tuning in to this Sunday Satoshi Live. Ben, thanks for coming through. and I'll see everybody next time. Peace.
Thanks, Kobe. Thanks, y'all.